Recording. There we go. How's it going, everybody? My name is Fernando, the Lone Star Halo, joined here by William Cannoli. We are going to talk about the All-Star Game. Is it important? Should people care? Is it the best in professional sports? Or maybe it's the worst All-Star Game. All that and more coming up.
Hey, you are now listening or watching the Halos in the Infield podcast, sponsored in part by Noble L Works over on 1621 South Sinclair, where you can get discounts by just mentioning HITI, Halos in the Infield. Drink discounts on us, baby. And also by 714 Tickets. The price you see is the price you get, and you also get 10% additionally off in the Apply Now code once you order your tickets just by mentioning HITI, Halos in the Infield. Now enjoy the show.
In the land of last shores, I play my part with the halos in the infield. I'll make my mark. I'm the Lone Star Halo, shining bright tonight. In a sea of rangers, I'll stand and fight with the halos in the outfield under stadium lights. From Texas to Anaheim, we'll soar to new heights. We'll soar to new heights.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the Lone Star Halo podcast. My name is Fernando, the Lone Star Halo, as I already said. I am joined here by William. He's been on the show before, and no, we're not exactly going to talk Orioles today, but of course the Orioles are going to come up. William, thanks for coming back on. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me as always. Nice new entrance.
Thank you. Did you like it? You guys like it?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah. It was made by our graphics guy, the guy who's been doing our graphics over the years, Randy Yoss. He does a good job.
I'll give another shout out to him.
Yeah.
I like this also background right here. Last time you had a particular logo above my head I'm not a fan of, so much better. Shout out.
Fair enough. So we are here to talk a little bit about the All-Star Game in Major League Baseball. Now, obviously, I still watch and follow baseball religiously. William likes baseball, had definitely a stint where he was just like me, followed religiously. He certainly doesn't follow like he used to, so he's going to have a different viewpoint here. Now, we want to really break down, is the Major League Baseball All-Star Game a big deal? Because there was a time where it used to matter, right? It was, it determined the World Series, who's going to have home field advantage. Let's get to that first. Did you like the fact that the All-Star Game used to actually mean something for good teams that could make it to the World Series?
So I like the idea, but I think that it always wasn't executed very well because, for example, in the All-Star Game 2016 in San Diego, it was more about David Ortiz's retirement than anything else, and I think everybody knew that he was going to have a good at-bat and he was going to put on a good show. So should the All-Star Game mean something? Should that home field advantage be determined? Yeah, I absolutely think so. But when there's outside sources like that, and I didn't watch the year Derek Jeter retired, but if
was that
the National
2014?
League, I have no idea.
Okay.
Sounds
I think it
about
was
right.
2014,
Sounds about
yeah.
right. But I'm sure that year the American League won. I'm sure there's no way the National League won. And, that could speak to maybe a little bit of conspiracy theory. But I don't think that if it's something that's important, then we should be able to have outside sources influencing it. And I'm sure it did.
In all fairness, I think we could probably count on like two hands how many times the NL has won in our lifetimes.
Yeah, true. And also, that's not fair either when you think of it like that. Because, let's say the Rockies for the first time in their franchise actually show up to, have a World Series appearance. The rest of the league is going to determine if they get home field advantage. That is kind of lame as well.
Yeah, well, in 2008, when they made it to the World Series, it would be interesting to know. I think 2003, maybe 2004 is when they started that. And coincidentally, 2016 in San Diego was the last year it counted.
Oh, was it really?
That was the last year, yes. And since
Wow.
2017 in Miami, it just became kind of like a, whatever exhibition kind of game.
Interesting. I didn't realize that.
So Starting in 1995. Okay, I'm gonna read every winner what league won. Okay, so 1995 National League, 96 National League, 97 American League, 98 American League, 99 American League, 2000 American League, 2001 American League, 2002 was a tie, and
How the
that
hell
was
did that happen?
so. I just watched a video about this. So they were out of pitchers. Joe Torre and whoever was the manager, 2002, the Diamondbacks manager for the National League, they both ran out of pitchers. And it was like
Wait,
the
in
11th inning.
2002, would that have been Buck?
No, because 2001
Is when they won. Okay, yeah.
is when
So
they
it
won
was
the World
whoever's after.
Series. Yes,
I'm not gonna
whoever.
pull that name
Yeah,
out of
because
my
Buck
ass. Then.
Showalter was. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, they ran out of pitchers, and they went up to Bud Selig, who was sitting like in the front row, whatever, and they're like, "Hey, what do we do? We're out of pitchers. You know what I mean? We can't unless we're going to
That's
start
funny.
throwing out position players." And Bud
Right,
Selig's
right.
like, "Okay," and they just made an announcement like, "Okay, if the National League doesn't walk it off here, it's a tie," and that's what it was. It was a tie, and that's why the next year they made it start counting so that the managers started actually using some strategy. So yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, so 2003 American League, 2004 American League, '05 American League, '06 American League, '07 American. Oh wait, '09 was American League. 10 finally the National League won. 2011 the National League, 2012 the National League, 2013 American League, 2014 American League, 15 American League, 16 American League. Yeah, that was the David Ortiz year. 17 AL, 18 AL, 19 AL, 21 AL, 22 AL, and 23 NL. So there you go. A lot of AL.
So to sum it up, to your question, should it matter? I think it should. However, maybe not to the degree of who gets home field advantage. Maybe they have to figure out something else because the American League East is always such a star-studded freaking lineup. You know, everybody in there. Even when the Rays or Orioles or Blue Jays are not on the same level, they are still usually better than everybody else in the rest of the league. So I think it's very one-sided, and so maybe it shouldn't determine World Series advantage, but I think it should matter in some factor.
Yeah, I just don't know what other factor it would
Yeah.
matter in. You know what I mean? Because it's like they don't do a neutral site, nor should they ever. Because I know that's something they've considered in the past. I swear, if MLB ever decides to do a neutral site World Series, it's going to be idiotic.
Absolutely, I agree with that.
All right, who's going to be like, oh, it's people in Milwaukee. It's the Orioles and the Padres. What? What the fuck? You know what I mean? Like people in Milwaukee are like, we don't want to watch this.
Yeah.
You know, maybe if it's like the Red Sox and the Dodgers, like fans that like travel, you know what I mean? Or people that have fans everywhere, you know, the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Dodgers, the Cubs. Okay, it makes sense for those teams. But you know, the Orioles, the Angels, the Padres, like these like smaller market teams, and I understand the Angels technically aren't a small market team, but they are compared to some of these other
Hey,
juggernauts.
by Otani's own definition, they're small market, so I think you can get away with that.
Well, there you go. So the point is, yeah, it's a stupid idea, but I digress. Okay, so you haven't watched Major League Baseball as much the last 2 seasons. So with
Since
that
the
being
pandemic.
okay, since the pandemic. So with that being said, in your opinion, is the Major League Baseball All-Star game a big deal, or is it just water under the bridge?
So context first. Okay, two things. Fernando has always been much more in depth with the league. Okay, I would not say one of us is more of a fan of our respective teams, no matter what team we were voting for. But across the league, Fernando definitely knows more about everybody. If there's a team, for instance, the Blue Jays, that I hate with a passion, I don't give a shit about any player on that team. I'm not going to learn any stats. I don't care about their history, right? So overall, Fernando definitely has more in depth, and like I can tell you probably two teams that hosted the All-Star game since 2000 off the top of my head, right? So that all being said, regardless if I'm watching it or not, I've never really cared that much. But out of all the different all-star sports, with the exception of the NBA, because I can't speak to that, the MLB one is the only one I'd ever watch. I'd ever have interest in. I've never watched the Pro Bowl, even when I was a big fan of the NFL. The NHL sometimes I think is cool, but then after about 20 minutes of the same thing, I mean, I can't get through it. The All-Star game for me for baseball is the only one I've ever sat through an entire game of.
Yeah. I definitely, if I'm being unbiased, and this is somebody who does watch like the NHL, I don't really watch a lot of NBA anymore, but I do still try to tune into like the skills competitions because that kind of stuff's fun. Like,
Yeah.
For all the major sports, like the NHL, I love I love like the skating competitions where they like who's the fastest doing the little
Absolutely.
obstacle course.
Absolutely.
I used to love it when the goalies would like try to shoot to the opposite net, like because that's just stuff you don't see. Well, you're not gonna see Ingram from the former Coyotes shoot across to the opposite goal. Like, it just doesn't happen often. Maybe once a season. But the point is, like, those are rare things. So I used to really love seeing them. The dunk competition in the NBA, sometimes it's cool, but most of the time it sucks because, I mean, it's the same thing every year. But the three-point shootout in basketball is still cool because that's always still kind of different. You're still seeing different faces. Maybe this guy's regressing that. The NFL Pro Bowl, in my opinion, is the worst of all.
Yeah.
All-Star games. It's only gotten worse. It literally is just a game of touch football.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, they don't. I don't think they tackle each other anymore.
I mean, that makes sense for football, though.
Yeah, maybe, but if that's the case, just do it after the Super Bowl, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's already almost after the Super Bowl anyway.
Right.
But I will say the one thing that the NFL has gotten right over the last couple of years, the skills competitions, some of the different things they've done, like that kind of stuff's still cool. Like, I won't watch it live, but I do look forward to going on Instagram, YouTube, whatever, like 2 or 3 days after it happened and watching like the quarterbacks like try to throw it through the paper targets and all that. Like, that's still kind of cool. Just because you realize like, oh, wow, I thought that guy sucked and they're actually really accurate. So,
figure. So I think All-Star game and then the actual game festivities are two different things. I think baseball has probably the best actual game, but out of the pre-stuff, I think they have the worst. So I'm not a fan of the home run derby. Just like
even
you
though
said,
you went.
Did I buy the ticket though? Did I spend money on it? Anyway, but just like you said with the dunk contest, it's literally the same thing. And the year that we went was probably the worst year because they let freaking Giancarlo come from out of nowhere. I mean, the thing that I hate the most.
Will Meyer's brother freaking peg his brother. Remember that?
Yes. He hit him more than once, didn't he? I know he hit him once really good, but
I think it was like 3 times. Yeah, he hit him once so bad he started laughing.
Yeah.
That took like 20 or 30 seconds away because they're both just laughing.
To be fair, like, dude, you can't expect your brother to just randomly pop out there in front of everybody. All the pressure's on, Should have picked somebody else.
Yeah, I'll say this. If I was ever in the home run derby, the last thing I'm going to do is get A, my sister, or B, anyone in my freaking family to throw a ball to me. No way.
Yeah, absolutely.
I understand the sentiment of, hey, my dad used to throw me batting practice. Would you trust either of our fathers to throw in the middle of the MLB All-Star game to us?
No.
Yeah, exactly. Use your coach because they throw BP all year.
Not my coach. My coach would have made it all about himself.
Yeah, I was talking about, like if you're an Oriole, you know what I mean? Like the pitching coach, whoever, the freaking bullpen catcher.
Yeah, actually, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah, and there you go. Exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, so anyway, as I was saying, I don't think the home run derby is anything special. And the thing I hate the most about sports is when you can find a way to have a conspiracy. And when they literally just broke the rules for Giancarlo, that was the last time I had any interest ever. And that was only because, like you said, we were going in person.
I like the home run derby. I used to think it was kind of boring when it did that whole like 10 out thing. Because it'd go forever. Literally. It would just never, ever end. But I like the time limit. I think it allows for buzzer beaters. because I remember like the very first year they did it. I don't remember the year off the top of my head. Forgive me, fans. Forgive me, audience. But I remember it. There was a buzzer beater. I want to say Pete Alonso might have got a buzzer beater with 2 seconds left. Ball up the pitcher's hand, just clock, and he advanced. Don't
I
like
have
Pete
no
Alonso?
clue.
Okay.
No, I'm saying I can't assist you at all. You're on your own there.
That's fair. But I like that ripple to it. And I know this year they've changed the rules on it. I don't remember the extent of it, so I won't pretend I do. But maybe that's something we will address a little later. Now, I told you off air that I'm planning on going to a couple of the events that are taking place over the weekend. So a couple things have changed since you and I went in 2016. So now they do some like collegiate classic called the HBCU Classic. That's on Friday night. Saturday, they have the Futures game. That's kind of always been there. They're now doing the Futures Showcase, which from my understanding is kind of going to be their, pre-event where they do a bunch of skills competitions from. That's at least what I've gathered from it. MLB's been pretty quiet about what exactly it's going to be, but that's my hope from what I've read. And then, of course, you have the celebrity softball game. Now, we went to both the celebrity softball game and we went to the Futures game. And then I think we got a Trevor Hoffman bobblehead, and they had like these post-game fireworks or whatever in San Diego. So we had a pretty good time with that. So with that being said, how do you feel about that portion of the All-Star game? Do you like those festivities?
Yeah, so that was probably the best part was all the festivities before, even the games themselves, those were cool. And I much enjoyed. We didn't have fantastic seats for the Futures or the Celebrity game. Still way better than sitting right there on the field for the Home Run Derby. I would seriously take that experience over the Home Run Derby any day. Okay. But the actual festivities like at the convention center and all that was really cool. I don't know if you remember, but we started the day getting interviewed by some local news people.
Oh, I forgot about that until now.
Yeah. I still got the picture somewhere on Facebook, but yeah,
But we never found the video.
Yeah, I don't think that guy survived the day because I couldn't find him on their website either.
That's fair. Yeah, I'm definitely excited for that. I'm going to like I don't even know what you call it, the All-Star Fan Village, I think they're calling it, on Saturday and Sunday. I got tickets for both.
Cool. Yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah, because I like how they have like legends from the team there. Because Hoffman was there, Will Myers was there, Tony Gwynn Jr. was there, because obviously, Tony Gwynn had passed several years prior to that. I'm trying to think if there was like other like big name Padres legends that were there, because this was the year it was San Diego, if anyone didn't know.
Well, Ricky Henderson was a Padre. I don't know, probably nobody out there except for me, because I loved him, thinks about him as a Padre, but he was.
I remember him as a Padre. Didn't he break the one of the stealing records as a Padre?
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay.
Going into third base.
Yeah. Because I mean, that's like that photo's plastered over Petco Park, like the one of him holding the base over his head.
As it should be.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, they're going to be doing something similar to that here. So because there's no formal, actually they just built one coincidentally. They built a convention center in Arlington across from the new stadium, and I don't think they're using it at all for that event. Because for anyone who didn't go in 2016, I'm sure probably most people didn't.
Yeah.
Petco Park is only like 2 blocks away from the convention center. You know what I mean? You have like this kind of these little restaurants right there. You have the trolley, and then you have the convention center. And then, walking distance. And then the players were staying like in the Hilton, which is also walking distance. So all of that and all those festivities were essentially connected to each other. You could walk between one and the other within about 10 minutes. And then you also had, wasn't there like a street festival right behind Petco Park? I think that was on Market. So all of that was going on simultaneously. It was a giant block party, really. I mean, that portion of San Diego plus the gas lamp was like shut down. Not only that, but you had Comic-Con the following weekend. So you had people that had arrived early for that. It was chaos in San Diego because there was a
Yes.
lot going on. There's a lot of different people there, different groups of people completely. But all this to say that this year they're using the Texas Rangers old stadium, which is literally across the street from the new one. They have the esports arena. Yeah, here in Arlington we have an entire arena dedicated to esports. Go
I
figure,
mean, there's
William.
money in it, you know.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I
I
mean,
know honestly, I won't be surprised if in the next 5 years people have higher ratings on professional gameplay than they do in NHL. I really see that trend coming.
do you think that esports will ever be an Olympic sport?
Dude, don't they have breakdancing in the Olympics this year?
That is new this year, yes. Okay, but like,
Listen,
here's the thing: breakdancing does take athletic ability. There's no way on God's green earth that you and I can breakdance if our lives depended on it.
right? Agreed, agreed.
Yeah, that's the thing. Look, I'm not saying that there's no skill in playing video games. Okay, that would be silly. I understand there are people who are great at video games, and then people who just kind of play video games like I do to like pass an hour if I have an hour or 2 hours. But like, I don't know, man. Like the esports aspect of it is crazy to me.
So I get that. It totally is crazy. I don't think it should be the level it's at. However, I think you will agree with me. If you sat us down and you gave us $10,000 to match the level of the best breakdancers out there, you give us 5 years, $10,000 a year to match that level. I think you and I could match best breakdancers if that's what we're totally devoted to sooner than we could the top Call of Duty player.
Maybe. But I'd also have to get like a good instructor. You know what I mean? Like I'd have to have like
Absolutely.
I would have to be guided in that direction. But I feel like you can say that about a lot of things, right? I mean, you and I would be much better baseball players. That's what we devoted our lives to. You know what I mean? So,
True, true.
but anyway, all that we just keep going on tangents. So you have the esports arena, the Texas Rangers old stadium, and then the two streets that lead up to it are getting shut down, and it's all going to be like fenced off. And they're calling it like a theme park dedicated to baseball. When I was
Oh,
there
that's
on
cool.
4th of July for the Padres versus Rangers game, they were already setting up like the baseball shaped Ferris wheel and everything. So yeah, it's going to be literally a baseball theme park where they're going to have like what you and I did, the throwing contest, the hitting. They're going to have all of those interactive elements. They're still going to have former greats signing autographs. They're still going to have all that stuff you come to know from FanFest. If any of you guys went in 2010, but this time there's going to be amusement park rides and stuff like that. So it should be really, really cool. And like my girlfriend keeps asking, like, not keeps, originally she was asking, like, what's the big deal about this All-Star game? Like, and like, it's hard to describe it to someone because maybe not the game, because the game is what it is. Honestly, if I had to pick between go to the festivities or only go to the game, I'm picking all the festivities that come with it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you would too. The game is what it is, right? But it really is larger than life, like what it means to like a city. And now on Sunday, they're doing something they just started a couple years ago. They're hosting the MLB draft as part of the All-Star game festivities. And I think that that's really cool that they do that.
Yeah, that's smart.
Because the draft used to be part of like the winter meetings, I'm pretty sure.
Hmm.
So now it's part of the festivities. I mean, it makes sense, right? All the GMs are already together. The commissioner of baseball and all that's already there. You might as well take advantage of it. So I think it's smart, and I think it's good for the sport. The only thing that kind of drives me crazy about it is, they're gathering a bunch of fans together in front of a stage like they do for the NFL draft. With the sixth pick of the draft, the Orioles select William Cody Cannoli. And they're not going to see you for like 3-4 years.
Yeah.
That's kind of silly.
Well, what the Orioles did, which was really cool, they actually brought out Adley Rutschman and Gunnar Henderson. I forget how much time passed in between, but they introduced them to the crowd way before they were even in one of the minor league jerseys. So the first time I ever saw Adley and Gunnar in person was the 26th and 27th of June in 2019. They both bring them out like before the fifth inning. They're like, and now everybody, here's your number one pick. And I forget what, I think Gunnar was like the 16th pick or something like whatever he was. Here's your pick, right? And so we all gave him a standing ovation, and they were each in a jersey. So that was really cool.
I know the Angels will bring their draft picks and they'll like interview them on TV, but they won't do anything like at the stadium for them, at least not to my knowledge that I've ever been told.
Yeah, so that was really cool to see because I saw Adley before he'd ever even taken a professional at bat.
I mean, that's how it should be because, like I said, you have to try to get the fans like excited for these guys. Because
Absolutely.
the thing with like the NFL and the NBA, and even in some cases the NHL, you draft those guys and they immediately go to the big club. I know with the NHL, it's kind of like baseball. In some cases, they'll go back to college for 3-4 years or whatever, or they'll go play in like I don't know Russia or whatever for like a year or two, and then they'll eventually play professionally. But in baseball, if they sign the contract, you're not going to see them in best case scenario for like a year and a half, 2 years. Yes, you have your anomalies. I mean, Paul Skeens was drafted like a year ago and is now a Major League Baseball All-Star. So sure, but he's the exception, not the rule. Adley was in the minors for what, 3 years?
I think right around there. He
Yeah, it was
did make
2.5,
some
3 years.
appearances before that, like once they opened up the roster at the end of the year. But
Okay.
officially, to be a player was about 3 years, pretty sure.
Yeah, it was kind of like Trout. Like in 2011, he got like 100 at bats or whatever, and he sucked. And 2012 is
That's
when
funny.
out of camp he broke camp with the team and made the opening day roster and all that. So, but yeah, so I love that they give these young kids the platform because at the end of the day, like this has to be cool for them, right? These guys work hard. It's not easy to be a professional athlete in any caliber, minor league or major league. So I love that they give these kids the platform to do that. And I think it's good for Major League Baseball. So when we went, they certainly didn't do that. I think Sunday was the day they had the Futures game when we went. And then Monday was the Home Run Derby. Tuesday was the All-Star game, and that's when the players get their like 2-3 game break. But yes, now the Futures game and all that's on a Saturday. Sunday is for the draft. And then, Monday's still the Home Run Derby. Tuesday's still the All-Star game. So do you like the draft?
Interesting. I don't really care. Like I said, you are much more about the entire league, where I'm like egocentric to my thing that I'm paying attention to. I did care when Adley was a discussion, just because obviously everyone knew that the Orioles were going to pick him, and everyone talked so badly about the previous ownership, and I was just waiting for if the Orioles legitimately saw something wrong with Adley and passed on him. It didn't matter how much truth there was to that. If they passed, no matter what, everyone's going to tear them apart. So I was invested in that, but not actually in Adley himself, because especially being San Diego, number one picks don't usually turn out the way we expect them to.
Very true. Very true. Matt Bush.
Yep. Ryan Leaf.
That's also fair. Also a good one. Yeah, but I mean, Adley has worked out for the Orioles, to say the least. I
Absolutely.
mean, he's one of the greatest catchers currently in Major League Baseball, and he's going to be for a while.
Yeah. But you
But the
never
Orioles
know.
have
I
a
mean,
good.
they said
Go ahead.
they were saying, Chan Cisco wasn't number one. He wasn't the same level that Adley was, but it was like picture side by side, just interchange the player. And of course, Adley had more. He was the number one, but Chance was supposed to be a huge thing also. And I mean, to be fair, Pedro Alvarez did knock him the fuck out in front of all the Angel fans, and I don't think he ever recovered from that. But same thing.
That's
You
fair.
never know what's going to happen, no matter how much talent they have.
I'll say this: the Orioles during this current rebuild, they're now out of seemingly. they did a lot better drafting, and they made some very very good and smart trades, and they clearly did things the right way. So I'm hoping that the new ownership group you guys have is going to continue to ride the wave, and perhaps actually lock some of these guys up to long term deals while they're still young. Like this would be a good time. Give Adley a 10-year deal because he's young. A lot of these guys will get 10-year deals when they're 30, and they're just not worth that anymore.
Yeah. You never know, though. I'm always nervous whenever I see a giant contract like that.
Like Tatis.
Yeah, I mean, so he's a different situation because he took drugs and fucking crashed his bike and violated his contract. But, even if they do everything right, they could still have some devastate. You could have Chase Utley come and blow out their knee for you.
That's fair. In all fairness, what he said was alleged. He claims it was ringworm. We wouldn't know, but I have to throw that legal disclaimer in there so we don't get in trouble. But yeah, so we've talked a little bit about the festivities of the All Star game. So let's put on our glasses as somebody who doesn't watch baseball, but lives in a town like Arlington, or next year it's going to be in Atlanta. And I think the year after that's Philadelphia. That's what they've announced so far. Is this like an event that you would get excited about as somebody who doesn't watch baseball? Like,
Yeah, I
hey,
think
it's coming to my
so.
town.
I think it's the same as like Comic-Con, for example. Do I really give a shit about comics? Not really. Do I own one or two? Yeah, okay, sure I do. Simpsons only. But it's the same thing is that it's people at their top level and they're gonna have, people around that I'm sure in some aspect of life interest you. It's not just solely about the sport, or the event. So I think that yeah, definitely everybody is gonna be excited to have it there rather than have it somewhere else. Is it something that every single citizen is going to be dying to go to? No, of course not. I mean, even being the big baseball fans that we're still not dying to go. If you ended up not being able to go to a single thing, even though you're going to have your tickets, it's going to suck. But 3 years from now, you're not going to be still crying over it.
Yeah, that's fair. That's very fair. It's also tough because at the end of the day, Major League Baseball is still promoting an exhibition game, right? Because like the Super Bowl, when that comes to your town, that's also a big deal. We lived in San Diego during 2003, and the Super Bowl was a giant deal because it is. It's a Super Bowl. Everyone's eyes are on it. Say what you want about the NFL, but it's the most viewed American sporting event of the year. So with that being said, there's definitely a precedent there, right? There's a giant microscope on it because everyone's watching the Super Bowl because you don't have to like football to watch the commercials or to watch the halftime show. Major League Baseball doesn't have that. They don't have an event like that. The World Series isn't that. The closest thing they have is the All Star game. And we are comparing apples to, I don't even want to say oranges, to freaking, grapes with seeds in them. And I like grapes, but not with seeds in them.
Well, it's funny because you said the halftime show. So if you think about it, the 16 All Star game we were at, you remember what band they had to perform for us?
Oh, man. What day was it?
It was before the Home Run Derby.
It was a pretty famous band, wasn't it?
Well, they're famous and that
They're
everyone
well
probably
known.
knows the name, but I wouldn't say that this band's ever going to get offered to go to the Super Bowl, and that was my whole point.
I don't. You know what? You're gonna tell me, and I'm gonna be like, God damn it. I know it's a well-known group. What was it?
Fall Out Boy.
That's what it was. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
And remember, they had an explosion, and one of their guys got set on fire, and they just kept playing through the whole freaking thing.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know how that was not like a Simpsons episode, like a South Park episode. Beyond me. How was that not something
Oh,
that was
shit.
marketed better?
I know. You think about freaking Janet Jackson got so much attention for her wardrobe mouth, or I don't know if it was Janet Jackson. I may be throwing out the
It
wrong
was
names,
Janet
but
Jackson
okay,
who the
cool.
world saw her her womanhood, yes.
Okay, but yeah, dude set on fire while Fall Out Boy is performing. Not a word about it.
People didn't care. Well, it's because in San Diego, people were freaking out because there was that random guy setting homeless people on fire. You remember that?
I do. I've actually talked about that a lot recently too, because I don't know if you know the details on that, and we'll get off this tangent right away. But they put a guy in jail, said he's him, and then as soon as all the festivities are over, released him, said that wasn't him, and that's the end of that story. So that's
Oh
a
yeah, yeah.
big conspiracy theory right there.
Yeah, yeah. I was talking to a friend of mine who had visited. I told you who it was, and we were talking about that, and I said the same thing. I was like, it's so funny how like a week or two before the All Star game, all this happened because Comic Con was right afterward. Yep, they took someone in and yeah, let him go. Oh, that's not our guy. And it's just like okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, we had that exact conversation. So because we were talking about how it's going to be here, and oh, that better not happen here because that's terrible. Could you imagine getting burned alive? Literally the worst thing possible.
Yeah. And
So
all for tourism's sake, like San Diego doesn't have enough of that already.
yeah, I mean those poor homeless people who are now terrified to be anywhere on the street because I mean you don't want to get set on fire. Jeez. So yeah, yeah, I don't think it was a coincidence, but I digress.
Hmm.
So yeah, I do want to throw in the fact that since this is an Angels podcast, Tyler Anderson is the Angels' low representative thus far. He's 8-8 with a 2.81 ERA. He started 18 games this year, and he's thrown 112 pitches with 77 strikeouts. Tyler Anderson is a name that a lot of people want to be traded, and it's going to be very interesting to see if the Angels actually do trade him. Luis Rengifo was a bit of a snub. He's currently on the injured list, but there are players that get into the All-Star game while on the injured list. I mean, Trout did it in 2017. In, what year was it? 19 maybe? Tommy La Stella made it in, and he had like a broken femur, I believe, if memory serves correctly. But Luis Rengifo, here's his stats for the year. 25 RBIs, 22 stolen bases. He's batting his on-base percentage is 358. He is batting 315. He's got 79 hits and 6 home runs. So a bit of a snub, in my opinion. I think he deserved to get in there. Unfortunately, he is on the injured list, the 10-day, so maybe that hurt his chances. I don't know who the Orioles got in. You probably don't have that in front of you either.
Yeah, they got Corbin Burns. They got, I believe, Adley and Gunnar, and I don't know if there's anybody else.
Gunner's in the home run derby. He was the first one to announce it.
Right.
He's in there, and I think Bobby Witt Jr. from the Royals. And that should be fun because both of those guys are fun to watch. They're both great athletes. And I think those two are going to continuously be compared to over the next 10, 15 years.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, just those 3 for the Orioles.
I mean, that's not a bad 3 at all. I mean, Corbin Burns is obviously on an expiring contract. And then the other 2 are going to be around in theory for quite a while. So,
and I don't know how the Angels are doing. Obviously I saw the Orioles Angels series. I didn't watch all of it, but I saw parts of it.
Angels are doing bad. Don't worry.
But I always feel like, like we talked about, their small market. There's players that should definitely be at least well known and in the consideration. And just because they play for the Orioles or the Angels or the A's or the Mariners, they don't get talked about. And that's another thing that I hate about the All-Star game is that it's just, there's probably a conspiracy that money's involved, but there's definitely popularity of like, oh, because he's on the Yankees, everyone knows his name, and that's so stupid.
Yeah, I've always kind of thought that I don't love the concept that like the first round, it's literally a popularity contest. It's, hey, this Orioles fan here is going to vote for only Orioles. And people do it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
A lot of people are guilty for that. Whatever their favorite
I've done
team is,
it.
they only vote for those guys in the first round, right? I think it'd be smart if Major League Baseball took like the top 3 actual players by the stats. And it's like, okay, these are your options. Your options are Zach Neto from the Angels, Bobby Witt Jr. from the Royals, and Gunnar Henderson. Those are the 3 shortstop options. And you have to pick between those 3 guys, right? Because Major League Baseball is looking at the numbers. These are the guys who are truly leading in those categories. And then they can turn into a popularity contest between those 3. Because at least we know that, I don't know, Jose Altuve, who's batting 212, he's a big name, but he's sucking this year. Oh, but Jose Altuve is winning because he's the biggest name. That's just an example, of course. But I think that that's what they could do to kind of fix it. They pick 3 or hell, even 5 guys who actually deserve it, or at least kind of deserve it at that position, and then let the fans duke it out between those. So you don't have what happened a couple of years ago when, like, the Royals had, 5 or 6 starters?
Yeah.
And then because the Royals are a well-known team, it's because their fans just, got on Facebook groups and whatever and just kind of organizes, hey, we're just going to vote all day.
Can you actually name any one of those starters?
For who?
For the Royals that year that they had 6 or 7 starters.
Eric Hosmer and Salvador Perez,
Hosmer.
I think, are the only ones I could name.
Yeah.
Probably Mike Moustakas is he's probably on there.
I won't take us down that path, but yeah, God, do I hate that. And you remember also, I was very adamant about it. I don't remember what year it was, but there was one year where Jonathan Scope was the second baseman. He was a representative for the Orioles, and he should have had, we can debate if he should have got the actual MVP of the All-Star game, because I think Cano ended up having a walk-off. But I remember Scope was the only reason that they even had a shot, and the voting was 99% Cano. And it was no.
Yeah. I mean, look, we grew up in San Diego, and yeah, we weren't necessarily Padres fans, but we had a soft spot in our heart for the Padres. How many years did we just see, Trevor Hoffman get in? Or, just Adrian Gonzalez? You know what I mean? There were so many years where it was just one Padre, maybe 2 Padres. You know what I mean? And even they wouldn't play much of the game. Or there was the one year where Trevor Hoffman blew it for the National League. We were all oh no. I forgot what year that was. I want to say 07.
It may have been because he was with Milwaukee in 07.
It was one of his last years as a Padre. He blew the save, I believe it was.
It got to be 06, then I bet. But either way,
whoever it was for the American League, hit a ground rule double or whatever to the opposite field, and I was oh no. So yeah. Anyway, I digress, but so we can both agree that there is at least a level of excitement that would come from a casual fan about the All-Star game coming to their town. I just think for instance, this year here in Arlington, I didn't start seeing the billboards until a month ago, and then really a week ago. This is something that if Major League Baseball knows it's coming, you have to be promoting it for months to get people excited. You got to have billboards everywhere. And I mean, we don't really watch TV because we use streaming like most normal people these days. So I don't know if there's commercials. There probably is on the local news and stuff. I'm sure there's probably radio commercials and stuff like that. But there isn't a lot of billboards driving across the city. I actually just saw one last week, and this was the first one I saw besides the Fort Worth one. I think I sent you where the draft is. It said hey, welcome to Fort Worth All-Star Week. That's been around for a month. But last week I saw one that said, and I swear, it's right outside of Six Flags, which is the same exit as the Arlington, where all the stadiums are for the Rangers and the Cowboys and all that. And it's in the All-Star game font. And William, I swear, it says, be an All-Star, get an STD test. That was the first All-Star billboard I had seen truly go up.
Well, I'm not going to touch that one right there, but
you should have done an STD test at least. All right, come on, that was pretty good.
I see what you're.
That's pretty
I
good.
see what your point is that they're not advertising it very well. I totally get that. But I wonder if that is going to be a tactic to try to deter scalpers. Because I remember for us, a lot of people were buying right away, and that's why they had the rule that only season ticket holders could get it right away, and there was still scalping. So I'm sure, especially in Texas, with the Rangers winning the World Series last year, those bastards, um, there's probably enough attention that they don't really feel like they need to advertise until they're getting closer. And I'm sure that they are not having any trouble selling. So if you get there and you find out that like it's not even half what you expected it to be, then I agree with you. They should have done something better. But maybe for once, Major League Baseball knows what they're doing on that. I think we have to wait to see what the verdict is.
Well, like the couple things is like the All Star Fan Village. Like when I was trying to like ask my one of my girlfriend's best friend's husband, like, hey, do you want to go with me? Like he's like, well, like what is it? You know what I mean? Like, and this guy watches baseball. I don't want to say religiously, but there's 5 games in a week. He'll watch one or two on TV. That's like more than a typical fan. There's a lot of fans who they'll watch like 3 or 4 innings a week, and then they'll watch the games if they go in person. So he's like a step or two ahead of that, and he didn't know what the Fan Fest was, because when we were in San Diego, like there was sand castles that said All Star Game and billboards everywhere. And the people who fly the banners over the beaches, like sure they used a lot of that for shots, for B-roll shots, but it was still out there. People knew.
Yeah, but again, I think that speaks to the difference in Padres and Rangers having a big presence. The
That's fair.
Padres, the year that the All Star game was there, we couldn't fucking fill the stadium. Okay, so I think that San Diego
They
had
were
to
still
have way
trying
more
that year because
advertising.
remember 2015 was when they got Upton, Matt Camp, Will Myers, Derek Norris, those guys. And this was the following year. They still had Matt Camp. They didn't have Upton anymore. They still had Derek Norris. They still had Will Myers.
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah, they
the
were
love affair had
trying.
certainly died. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
fair.
well, I think
Yeah,
it's
that
because
was
we
the
saw that
year.
Matt Camp wasn't anybody worth having.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah, he had sucked. That was the year that Drew Pomerantz made the All Star team, and we were at the parade, and I looked at you. I looked at you, and I forgot what his on air name is, and I had said, "Dude, this guy's gonna be gone in like the next
Yeah,
week." Lo and behold, like you texted us what, like 2 or 3 days later, you're like, "Oh, there it is. He got traded to the
yeah,
Red Sox."
yeah.
I mean, we
And
saw that from a mile away.
but what we didn't see is that AJ Preller knew he was injured and tried to ship him off to the Red Sox.
He did that too with Colin Rea. Was that his
He did
name?
that with Colin Ray to the Red Sox, and he did that with Cashner to the Marlins.
Yeah, yeah. But it also makes me wonder. I wonder how like often that happens. It has to happen more than we think it does.
I don't know, but all I know is the Marlins were like, that's fine. We'll just take injured Cashner. He'll do good. That says a lot about that
Yeah,
ownership.
yeah, because healthy Castner did so well himself.
Yeah, he only
Yeah, he
did it
wasn't doing that
well
great
with the
either.
Orioles, and that was it.
Oh yeah, I forgot he was an Oriole for a short stint of time. Oh,
Drew
crazy.
Pomerantz starts the game for the Red Sox against the Orioles when Cashner's starting. End of the first inning, Cashner has given up 5 runs. End of the first inning for the Orioles, Pomerantz has given up 6 runs. It was a battle of the very best that day, man.
The battle of the guys who need to get DFA'd immediately after this game.
Yeah.
One will stay, one
Yep.
will leave. Who's it gonna be? Sit back and watch, folks. God, could you imagine if they did that? Like in racing, like street racing, they'll like race for pink slips. They do something similar to that. So, like, hey, William, you and I are gonna face off, pitcher to pitcher, different teams, and one of us is gonna get cut today. And boom, you
I think
lose, you get cut from the roster. That'd be dope.
I think that's a great solution to the flopping at the end of the season, and you can eliminate the need for a lottery draft if you do that.
Yeah, yeah, it'd be interesting. See, look, Let's fire Rob Manfred and William and I can we'll split the salary. We'll be fine. We'll be okay with that. Plenty of money for both of
Let's.
us.
I'll pay you to fire Rob Manfred.
Yeah, I think most people would. All right. Do you have anything else to add about the All Star game? We talked a little bit about our experience in 2016.
Here's one thing. So
Sure.
the red carpet when they brought all the players down. Okay.
I forgot to mention that. Yes, the day of the All Star game. Uh-huh.
So I personally, huge fan of Chevy and of Pepsi. Okay. And those are the two things that were sponsoring. That was really, really cool. And I really enjoyed that. However, let's talk about that. Petco Park is not sponsored by Chevy. They're sponsored by Toyota and they're sponsored by Coke. I think that was kind of fucked up by MLB to do that. Now, again, I appreciated it. I really enjoyed it. But I mean, that's not fair to do.
Don't all Major League Baseball stadiums now have Coke products?
Fire this man. Come get him. Detroit Tigers literally fought and had a lawsuit about that because I don't blame you actually for having that thought because Coke did try to sneak in that they are the official freaking soda. But Detroit literally had a lawsuit about all that because they have been sponsored by Pepsi for a long time and have giant Pepsi sponsorships out in right field. And so
Uh,
I believe now it's only down to five. Unfortunately, the Orioles did change to Coke also, but no, there's still, I think, five teams that have Pepsi.
okay, I know you told me one time, when you were going on a tangent about this, that the Angels were also one of the last teams to have Pepsi. They've now transitioned, but I think you told me that
Yeah,
the
and it
Angels were
was
like one
so
of the last
beautiful
teams.
to have the Pepsi sign in the big A, and now it's Coke and it's all red, and it just
I
doesn't
think now it's State Farm, if it
look
makes
the
you feel any
same.
better. It was State Farm last year.
But it's still red, right?
It is, yes.
Yeah, so it all blends in. It's not the same.
Yep, that's fair. That's fair. So yeah, the red carpet event was one thing. Yes, I did forget to mention. We had gone to that, and it's exactly what you think it is. They put the players on the back of a Chevy convertible. Were they all convertibles? They were, right?
No, there was Camaros, there was Silverados.
Okay, okay,
Because remember,
okay.
Buster Posey was in a Silverado.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Most of them were Camaro convertibles. I want to say like 70% of them, most. And they had the roofs down because it was a beautiful day in San Diego, and the players were like throwing out weird things. Right? Didn't Trout throw him like a little squishy ball?
I think so. What's his name? Fernando.
Rodney.
The Arrow.
Yeah, Rodney.
Okay, yeah. Fernando Rodney was doing his pose all the way down, which I'm not really.
Yeah,
I don't care about that, but it was cool to see him, actually interacting instead of just being there like the fucking queen.
yeah, like Will Myers. There was
I
some
don't
guys
remember
you
him.
could tell did not want to be there, and there are some people who are
Yeah,
just kind of like having fun with it. I just feel like you have to just kind of go with it, man. I mean,
yeah,
it's a pageant. That's what it is. You know what I mean? It's a
yeah,
beauty competition. Show up, wave, throw out whatever they're having. Hey, throw out the squishy balls to the kids, whatever beads, I don't know, whatever they tell you to throw out, whatever the
yeah,
sponsors pay for. Smile at the kids. When you get to the very end, you got to walk out of the car. Kiss babies, sign foreheads, take photos with the kids, whatever you got to do. But like that's what it is. It
yeah,
literally is a popularity competition. And like if you're freaking Stephen Vogue from the Athletics, yeah, you're a talented baseball player. Yeah, like 30% of the fans know you, but like that's your opportunity. For the fans that don't know you, make them a fan. And like we had said, there was just some guys you could tell didn't want to be there. And that's just such a missed opportunity. If you're Mike Trout, if you're David Ortiz in 2016, people are going to love you by default, right? You're a big name. If you're Gunnar Henderson, most fans know your name. But if you're freaking, Boba Fat Fuck from the Pirates, go out of your way a little bit. Woo the crowd.
yeah,
So
absolutely. I mean, you think about it, like you're sitting there, all you got to do is really do more than a wave, right? If you're thinking like, oh, it was top down and you're in the hot sun, remember
yeah.
they had the mascots walking the entire fucking route, all right? If you've got some
Oh,
poor
they did,
kid
yeah.
working for $9 an hour, sweating their ass off in that costume, walking the whole way. Your pampered ass in a brand new Camaro can fucking interact at some degree.
Dude, could you imagine like you're freaking I don't know what's the name of the bird from the Orioles?
Oriole?
Oh, okay, well there you go. They dug deep for that one. If you're the Oriole bird, they're like, we need you to fly to San Diego. You're like, okay, that's fine. For the All-Star game, you're like, whatever, man. And then they're like, all right, we need you to walk 5 miles. You're like, what? I'm not getting paid extra to walk 5 miles. Dude, imagine here in Texas. Dude,
Oh yeah.
the bird's gonna
Fuck
die. Fred Bird, the Cardinals bird's gonna die. These guys are all gonna die. It's gonna be 100 degrees. Let me check
Yeah.
if the weather's out yet. It probably not for Tuesday. Oh yeah, for next Tuesday it's gonna be 95. Hey, it's gonna be a cool day here in Fort Worth.
That's fucking crazy. No, that's a
Sunday
good
during
point.
the draft is gonna be 94 degrees. So I'll be frying out there at the draft watch party.
Have fun with that. I can't say I'm envious of you, buddy.
Well, here's the thing. So I was originally only gonna go to see the first couple picks because the Angels are drafting 8th, and I was like, okay, that's not bad. But the thing that I didn't love, or yeah. So the Angels are drafting 8th, and then afterward they're doing like a drone show, which they just announced last week. And I was like, oh, I've never seen a drone show in person. This might be cool, so I want to check that out. But we'll see how I feel.
So I will tell you, I saw some of the 4th of July drone things that they were doing here, not in person.
Oh, okay. My parents saw it
The
in
actual
person
show
downtown.
itself, okay. The actual show itself does look kind of cool, but just the fact that there's somebody doing a drone show, I don't know if I can ever get really behind that. It's so bizarre to me.
Yeah, I mean, I saw video clips of the one that was in Anaheim after like Star Wars weekend. And then I know Disney does one at Disney World, and that one looks cool. So I kind of just want to see what the hype's about because something tells me that these drone shows are going to be more normalized, especially if
Yeah,
they start trying to get rid of like fireworks like they've always mentioned. So
yeah,
we'll see. I mean, it could be something cool. And the fact, the way I see it is, I'm not going to be able to go to the home run derby this year. I'm not going to be able to go to the All-Star game just because money's a bit tight. So it's a free thing to do. I could say I went there and probably never went again because as much as I love baseball, like I said earlier, I don't love the idea of going to a draft and seeing, William Cannoli get drafted who we're not going to see in the majors for 3 or 4 years. It's like, no disrespect to those guys. It's just, I'm not going to see you for a while, bro.
yeah. No, I totally get that. But also, that's supposed to, make people think about spring training. But then at the same time, for
Yep.
somebody who's living in Minnesota, there's no fucking way you're going to make the trip down to Florida, especially some of those are really, really far south in Florida.
Yeah, that's fair. Because, I mean, people who live in California, are pretty lucky for Arizona spring training. It's not far. And the
Yeah.
nice thing about Arizona, they're all right there. You and I have
Right.
been to spring training. Like the farthest drive's at what, 30, 40 miles? When you're talking about spring training in Florida, I mean, Florida's a big state, but they're all spread out. There is hour drives between those, different
And the
facilities.
Orioles are in Sarasota, so I'm pretty sure they're the furthest ones down. So
There has to
that
be still
Sarasota's
farther than
not very,
Sarasota.
I don't know, but Sarasota's still a freaking long drive. If you were going straight down the state, that's a long drive in there.
Yeah, I drove across Florida last year for work. I drove from Texas to Tallahassee in a day, stayed the night in Tallahassee, drove to Jacksonville, drove to, I think it's like Bradentown, something like that near St. Petersburg, which is next to Sarasota. And then I drove back home. It's terrible. Let's see. It looks like the farthest down is like Fort Myers, which is the Twins. The
Oh, okay.
Orioles are right in the middle. The highest are the Braves. I think they play in Disney World, like at the ESPN zone. I don't know if they still do. And then the farthest on the east side is the Marlins and the Cardinals.
Interesting.
So there you have it.
Still,
Yeah,
fuck
and then I'm looking at the Arizona map, and yeah, they're all within like an hour. You know what I mean? At the most. So, all right. Anything else?
that. Was the 2016 All-Star game when we found out Bartolo Colon had a secret wife?
Yeah, it was about that time. Yeah.
That was cool. Glad to say that happened there.
Yeah, don't you remember? Because everybody was cheering for Bartolo Colon, and we were waiting at the hotel lobby that night, hoping to meet Bartolo Colon because I wanted to tell him that he's our hero. Yeah, that was unrelated to the All-Star game, guys. By the way, so we'll see. We'll see if anyone's revealed to have a secret family this year.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, but see, there is no.
I don't
more
think
big
anybody would be as
sexy,
impressive
so.
though.
Yeah, exactly. Like
Yeah,
Bartolo
exactly.
Colon was impressive because this man had just hit his like first career home run. This man was truly making himself to be the GOAT. So, it was just like the biggest meme in like Major League Baseball. People loved
Yeah.
making memes of Bartolo, and that's the guy. If it's anyone else, we wouldn't bat an eye. It's like, oh,
Right,
Mike Trout
right.
and secret fan. Oh, okay. You know, Adley Rutzman, freaking Buck Showalter. Oh, okay, great. Who cares? Bartolo Colon, everyone's like, what? That guy?
That's a good memory though. That'll be always associated with it.
Yeah, exactly. The good times, good times. That was a really, really fun like week. I had a lot of fun. That was arguably one of the best weeks I've ever had in my life as a baseball fan. Obviously, you know, professionally and personally, there's things that are ahead of it. But in terms of just being a baseball fan, you know, I had a lot of fun with you and, you know, my dad and, you know, a bunch of other friends during that stretch of time. It was a really, really cool time. And we'll see if it ever comes back to San Diego.
Yeah.
So, William, where can our audience find you if they're interested in some more cannoli content?
Just my main YouTube channel, the William Cannoli channel, and then I also have my own podcast that talks about pretty much everything other than sports. Our sports stuff we'll do somewhere else, but the Unhinged Outburst podcast. Otherwise, that's about it. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been on his podcast a couple times. If you guys aren't tired of my voice already, definitely check it out. And I can promise, as long as I am a welcome guest, I will be on again.
Absolutely. One last question, real fast. Your
Yep.
patch on here, how's it holding up?
Perfect.
Mine, I don't know what the hell. I have super expensive washing machine and dryer, most expensive you can get. Look at this thing. It's like a damn cigarette. Freaking curls over, wraps up. I don't know. It will not lay flat.
Why don't you like just put something heavy on it? You know what I mean, like a heavy book or something. For
Yeah, I
like
tried that. It didn't
a
make a
week or
difference.
two. Get it dry clean so
Yeah,
you can steam
I
it.
could commit a little longer. I steamed it. It won't lay flat.
That's crazy. Yeah, mine's
Oh, it's
holding
a
up
lot.
well, but I mean, I've also only worn this jersey. Like, I've worn it for like podcasts and stuff, but in public, I've worn it maybe 3-4 times. So maybe that's why. I know you've got a lot more use out of yours.
Yeah, definitely. But also maybe they just didn't put that much effort into a Trumbo jersey.
Yeah, maybe. Where did you get it online?
This one Josh bought for me, so I don't know where he got it.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, the
Josh got
nice
me
thing about
everything.
Tyler Anderson, making the All-Star game as an Angel, I know he's probably going to get traded, so I don't have to worry about buying his All-Star jersey. If it was like Logan O'Hoppe, who's like, you know, like our new like kind of franchise player, and he's going to be around for a couple years, I would have been inclined, like, hey, I got to buy this. But you know, or hell, even if it was Trout, but yeah, I don't have to buy it this year. I might buy a unmarked one just for the memory of, hey, I was there for the festivities, but
Absolutely.
I'll do what I did with this year. I waited for it to go on clearance, and then I jumped on it. So, but I also don't have the
Well-
Angels 2016 patch. Mine didn't come with it, so go figure.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, I have this patch, but yeah, I had the Trout on the back and everything, but yeah, mine didn't come with the
Weird.
Angel logo. So.
Weird.
All right, guys. Well,
Well, I hope you have fun at this year's party.
Oh yeah, no, you'll. I'm sure you and I will be in contact about it. All right, guys. On
All right,
behalf of
sounds good,
all
man.
of us here, we'd like to give a big shout out once again to William, and thank you again for joining us. And if you guys want to hear more from us, make sure to follow us, like, comment, subscribe, all that. Let us know what you guys want to talk about next, and we will see you guys soon.